What's up, everyone? How you doing on this MLK Day, depending on where you are in the world? And I just want to say hi to everyone. Lots of sports going on. I'm kind of watching a little bit of the West Indies cricket there in with Afghanistan. They're currently struggling really badly. 50 for 5 after a massive 182 from Afghanistan there in Dubai. But that's a warm-up match in preparation for the T20 World Cup that's about to happen in a matter of weeks. But there's a lot of things on tap, and I want to go through a few of those things today. Discussing. I labeled it as a little bit of a speed check in to see what's going on with track and field, because as many of you know, the track and field season is started indoor, outdoor, and I want to touch on some of that stuff. Today is a massive day for college sports in the United States as well. If you are in good afternoon there, Dell. Belated season's greetings to you too as well. Thank you for coming through. Yeah, if you're in the United States, there's clearly a big game later on too for the final of college football there. And I might touch on that as well. Some cricket, soccer, you name it, whatever you want to talk about too. I'm happy to get that going. But I want to just immediately kind of draw in to what happened this weekend. There's a lot of stuff happening in college sports, all that kind of thing, and in terms of college athletics and indoors here and there. But there's a couple of standout performances that I want to touch on, and maybe not officially standout, but I want to start. Let's start with some speedsters. Let's go to 60 meters. So, as many of you, if you're following the sport of track and field, would have seen, there was a development meet in Jamaica. I just want to talk about the 60 meters there for both men and women. Tia Clayton there getting a win of what was it, 7.06 seconds in a positive 1.2 win. So, looking really good. I think they're rather 7.02 rather ahead of Jonelle Smith, right? So, but she looked really good. I wanted to kind of reflect on that. Coming off of what happened to her last season, you have to believe that she's in thinking about what the season might look like. And I thought she got out of the blocks well. Maybe the arms was moving a little bit too high in the back, but it was a 60 meters, and there's not much there to basically critique. For me, the vantage point of the video is also not great, but we'll get into that. Look at the whole cruise through. Imran is in. Eastside, I think you changed your name here now. Big up to you as well. So, yeah, so Clayton separates herself. I think that was a good performance. Technically, I thought the race was encouraging. It's not really clear what you want to see there. I know she's slated to run in a meet in a couple of days as well, so that should be interesting there to see what happens in the indoor meet. It kind of slips me right now, but the meet that she's gonna be participating in soon. But if one of you know off the top of your head, we can just remind me. Yeah, so it's still unclear what the plan is. You don't really know. This is an interesting season. And I was thinking about the 2026 track and field season in different ways. For many athletes, it means different things. For some, if you're an elite athlete, if you are one of those athletes that is already accomplished, perhaps you play around with the season, right? It's not a major championship year in terms of, if we think about the hierarchy of the sport, it's not an Olympic year, and it's certainly not a world championship year. But it's a new year for the Ultimate Championships that World Athletics is launching at the end of the calendar season for track and field this year, which is all the way down there in September. So you get that going. I'm sure there's a lot of athletes that want to show up for that, and the prize money is relatively good. It's actually much better than before. It's going to be shorter. It's going to be quick pace. It's designed for television. Not every meet will be there. All of that stuff. So I think many athletes are going to get there. If you're already one of the top athletes, you've probably qualified from Olympic champion or world champion, or you get in on ranking or and so on. So I definitely think that's how you want to think about it, right? There's a Commonwealth Games for some athletes, and then you just play around with the various meets that are going to be on tap this year, your Diamond Leagues, and maybe a couple continental tours here and there. So it's very hard to think about what's going to happen. What are the priorities for some athletes? For some athletes, they want to make up for last year. They got to make a lot of money, maybe set themselves up for a new season. All of that stuff you would anticipate happening going forward. I would also say that it's a year that you've already seen athletes prioritizing differently. So you think about a Beatrice Chebet, for many of you, a fantastic athlete there, Olympic champion, world champion, world record holder, you name it. Beatrice is not going to be active this season. She already announced that she's taking the season off to have a child, right? So, and for her, that makes sense. They planned it that way. I wish her the very best. We've seen all the great athletes, including our countrywoman Faith Kipyegon, do that and come back and have even a much more stellar year. The likes of Rochelle and Fraser Price have done that. So it's not a problem, but it's also managing your season. But not everybody can do this. So it loops me back around to say the likes of a Clayton, who's young, 21, like her sister. What are they going to prioritize? What's the big accomplishment? Because the talent there is, the ceiling is high for it. The expectation will be high in terms of, are those two going to take it forward for, say, the likes of Jamaica to challenge the sprinting landscape, which now seems firmly Melissa Jefferson Wooden, and also obviously the Olympic champion Julian Alfred will be coming back again. So it's one of those things, right? So, and I'll get to you in a second, Imran, on the cricket there. I'm actually watching it. It's on the side of my thing here as well. It's not great, but I like what I saw from Clayton to wrap it up. Janelle Smith also too. I think Smith is a quality sprinter. She showed real signs of promise last season as well. We know this from a long time ago. Also, creditable performance on that relay leg. And so it depends on what they're trying to accomplish. I've heard a few things, but I don't have anything confirmed to see what's going on there. But we'll wait to see. And yeah, but that was an interesting result there from Tia Clayton there, and also from Janelle Smith. And it's outdoors. It's good win. It's not that much you can make of that. It's a helping hand. It's not like if it was like maybe a sub 7, we'd start thinking differently. But I don't think we have to make any kind of a calculation there. And I'll get back to that in a second. I want to touch on the men in a second, but before I do that, I just want to respond to what Imran was saying. He's asking what's going on against Afghanistan. I mean, what's going on against Afghanistan right now is what we expect, right? It's I'm seeing Noor Ahmed right there. This is a West Indies team that doesn't bat well with spin. They require 125 runs off of 60 balls. I don't think they're going to make that. They started out the match really well, run out on the first ball. I think Afghanistan was 19 for 2. But this is not a place that they have happy memories as well. I don't think the West Indies, if my memory serves me correctly, and I think one of the commentators said that earlier, I don't think they've ever won a match in Dubai there. Look, West Indies hasn't named their provisional squad yet for the T20 World Cup. So for some of the guys here, they're trying to get into that squad. You see a Shimar Netmeyer there. You see some of the Shamar Joseph, he had injury. I think they're working through a few things to get the squad assembled there. There are players who are in Australia right now. Is it Australia or South Africa? One of those places playing franchise cricket that aren't here. So it's not necessarily the strongest West Indies side. And even if you had the strongest West Indies side here, I'm not quite sure they would also win, because it's very difficult to make any sense of West Indies cricket from time to time. So yeah, that's my take on it. It's now 62 for 5 We can talk more about it a little bit more if you want. Yeah. And there will be more cricket to come and so on. All right, let's get back to I want to touch on the 100 meter, the 60 meters for men. That was a more interesting race for me. Involved the likes of Kishane Thompson winning it. And I'm just looking at the race again here. Unfortunately, I don't own the rights to this, so I can't show you, but it's all over social media if you haven't seen the race as yet. I thought this was an interesting race, to be honest with you. The quality is not so good in terms of making it, but Thompson got out really well, powerful as usual. But equally, I like that O'Dane McPherson there was running him down. And also, sneakingly well there, you saw Brian Level getting into his running, and all of those guys caught up to, as I look at it once more, caught up to Thompson really quickly. But by the time they did, it was across the line. What can we contextualize from that? Not quite sure. I mean, it 6:52, 6:53, 6:54. Not those are okay times. If the win, what we saw is correct, 1.2 is a little bit of a helping there, a positive win. It's an easy run out, right? It's not nothing that if it was like a 6-4 or sub 6-4 running, or perhaps like a 6, there, then we could start thinking differently. I know a lot of the detractors would want to immediately look at and think about Thompson as an athlete that, those guys caught up to him relatively quickly, but it's a 60 meters, so I'm not quite sure what to make of it. But, it's interesting. Yeah, but that, you like to see it. Level, who had what do you have to think is a standout performance last season. And, going forward, he's definitely, obviously, he's a 200-meter man to beat in Jamaica right now, and I think going forward he's going to always make the double. So, his ceiling is super, super high there. Under the coach, and I think he'll be great. I mean, I'm looking at it once more. It's not much there. They caught up to him. He won the race. Not much to make of it. Yeah. But it's a kind of interesting race there. Yeah. Let me check my comments just in case they're coming through. I got it on a different screen. Yeah. So hopefully everybody's doing well and so on. So those, that's a kind of start off there on the sprint stuff. There's other things there. We can talk about Noah Lyles too if you want. He opened up in over the weekend as well, running a 300 meters. We haven't seen Lyles run a 300 meters in a pretty long time, I believe. 32:60. It was comfortable. He looked bigger to me. He looked a little bit heavy, but I saw it. I didn't watch it. I'm not quite sure if it was on Flow Track. I didn't get to see the meet. I only saw the clip on social media, and sometimes it's very hard to understand the imagery sometimes because you don't know how people download things or so. If it was like from the direct feed, and then I could make a different take on it. But he looks a little bit like he's been in the gym a lot and a bit bigger than usual, at least in the shoulder region. That's how it looked to me. If you saw it, then you can let me know if you saw it somewhat differently. I don't think we can read into this. It's not a stellar performance. It's not something that would make you jump up and say we can make big extrapolations out of this. Even if you were to run like a 31 something, perhaps we wouldn't. I still don't know what to make of it. Lyles probably has to think about the season differently. He's getting a bit older. He has a lot of things he still wants to accomplish. He's looking to a world championship year next year and probably finishing out at the LA Olympics in 2028, which is going to be interesting, if you ask me, in terms of him getting to the double. I'm not quite sure if he can do that, but you never count out Noah Lyles. But back on the podium, winning his pet event last year in Tokyo, and not quite winning the 100 meters, but I think he's going to do some interesting things. I think he was tweeting or he was doing some stuff on social media to expect the unexpected. I think that was one of the latest things he had on his account. So you never know what they're up to. Uh, Again, there's nothing for him to do this season. Athletes can run sparingly, show up at the big meets, and I suspect he'll be at the Olympic Ultimate Championships as he's already qualified in September. So there's a lot you can do this year if you are an athlete that really doesn't need anything from the sport financially. You're already in good stead. You can test out a few events. You see a number of athletes looking to run something that they may not normally run, just to out of love or because they wanted to do a different event, or perhaps out of just a tactical shift to say, let's switch things up to see if we can do something differently to get ready for a traditional season next year. So that's my take on it so far in terms of what Lyles did. All right, I'm going to shift a little bit, and this might seem contradictory to how I think about the season already, but I want to talk about Yaroslava Mahuchikh. Obviously, she is one of the greats, the world record holder over the high jump. Last season was not a season that you would think is of the standard of Yaroslava. I think she was struggling with a couple of niggles here and there. They didn't talk much about it, at least not in detail, kind of championship style. And nothing against Alislagas. Obviously, I love Alislagas as well. But over the weekend, we saw Yaroslava go out to a 203-meter jump in her first performance on home soil there in a long time. That is a massive jump for her. That's her best jump since, I believe, she broke the world record back in, when was the world record? July 24, I believe. And that's a massive jump. When you think about it from an analytic perspective, you say to yourself, what happened in 2025? Most people would take Yaroslava's 2025, right? She is, she did find a way to get on podiums, but it wasn't the type of season for her. She struggled a bit. She was okay at indoors a little bit, European indoors, world indoors in Nanjing, China. She struggled a bit, but still got there. But the season really belonged to Alislagas on her notebook last year, and I like what I saw from Yaroslava this year, because it makes me think that maybe it was more of a health situation than anything. And she's back, right? 203 on her third attempt. It's important, right? That's anything better than we saw last year. And to open that massive jump, what it does, it indicates to me that is physically prepared, ready. There's also some good factors there. She's on home soil. It's easy to run, but it's not always easy to not run to jump, but it's not always easy to perform when you're there, right? And so she takes the world lead. I think she's setting things up well. Again, the only thing up for grabs this year is the big money at these Ultimate Championships, and obviously the money over the Diamond League, right? And I think that's what we'll see. But it was efficient jumping. She cleared 191, 196, I believe, on first attempt. So didn't look like she was rusty. I'm not saying that this is going to be a world record kind of setup for Yaroslava, but it looks good. It was a good jump, and whenever you see it from an athlete of that stature, you're happy. Because last year wasn't the year for her. And the high jump is in a wonderful space in terms of different athletes here and there that sometimes don't quite get it right. But if everybody gets it right, they will continue to push. I'm not saying we'll continue to push the world record. It took a very long time to get to that world record. But you want to see athletes do well. And it's not always easy. The jumps are really difficult on the body. And yeah, so let's see. You think about even Angela Topic there. She, to me, too, is superb in terms of her talent and what we can expect for her in years to come as well. So yeah, that to me was a good performance from Yaroslava. I think that if I had to round up the performance of the weekend, I was happy with that. To be honest with you, I thought she was you wanted to see it. To be honest with you, I really, really, really wanted to see that because she had not performed the way we expected over the last couple of years, over last year rather. And I think that's just down to a level of injury there. Cool. All right. If you're on the channel, I appreciate it coming through. We've talked about a little bit of track and field so far, some 60 meters. We touched in a little bit of cricket because I'm actually even watching a little cricket on the side here. Anything you want to talk about as well, feel free to put that through. I appreciate you coming through. Don't forget to like the video, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't. And yeah, we'll be back a lot this season with a lot more things to come. All right, on track. We're staying a little bit on track and field for the moment, but and we can transition to some other. I want to transition to some other sports in a little bit. Imran is asking me too before I get to another track and field thing. Predictions for World Cup squad. I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you, Imran. I think I did a video a couple of days ago or last week. You may have not seen it with Nathaniel Goodard McCarthy there from out of Barbados, in which we were kind of predicting the West Indies squad. I think a lot rides on the health of, say, Shamar Joseph. I'm not sure what you do there. Does Alzari get back into it? So there's some interesting things there. I'm not optimistic about this West Indies team. A lot of people are riding on this interesting nostalgia from previous iterations of when West Indies won the World Cup of T20 World Cup, and it was hosted in India or Sri Lanka, and this time it's in both. So there's all these conversations around whether West Indies can do something. I think the cricket has not moved on as well, and I don't know. I actually am just waiting to see. I would say that our chances of getting out of the group seems a little bit better now, but I don't know because Bangladesh is having a little bit of a tete-a-tete with India, and they're talking about they're going to boycott, they won't come. Will that really pan out in a couple of weeks from now? I'm not quite sure. I don't know what the mental state of those players are. So we will see. Yeah. Cool. I'll get to something. Sherwood, what's going on, my man? I was having some mic difficulty earlier. My producer's probably going to be upset about the state of my mic, but blame it on my cleaning crew. All right, let's see what Sherwood said. Thoughts on World Athletics and Olympics still not coming out with explicit policy to ensure athletes and coaches who participate in the enhanced games cannot return to traditional sports. Interesting. I'm working on a video for the enhanced games. We haven't recorded yet rather. It's been written already, but we haven't done much on it to get it out, but we'll get it out soon. So which association is that? I think swimming. Is it swimming who barred athletes from returning or threatened people? There's even if you're adjacent to the track and field thing, if you're adjacent to the enhanced games, you can't compete. I actually think there needs to be a big statement here, a definitive one, especially from the IOC, one from WADA as well. But I think the directives has to come from IOC and World Athletics in particular. I think Sepco has said a lot of things as well in terms of being against the enhanced games. You're getting the statements you want from most of the major governing bodies, but you haven't gotten, as you say, something saying that you cannot participate. My understanding from that, and I don't know for 100%, but this is what the ramblings, at least where I've been trying to get at, is I don't think it's that they don't want to have a statement yet. I think it's still working through like the legal ramifications of if you issue a directive like this and whether or not athletes can sue you or something like that. But I think I don't know if that really is the case. But I want it to happen. Importantly, I think the enhanced games is a joke, right? Like I keep saying it before. Some of us think about it as from an athletic standpoint, a little bit of a circus. That's how some things are playing out here, but it's much more sinister than that. If I want to give you my take on it, and it's not also original take only, but what was happening here is, in a sense, like a modern day eugenics type thing. Tech billionaires trying to figure out, what they can do to live longer, and they're using athletes in some interesting ways here, right? And they talking about science, and they have a bunch of different people who are good at what they do, and they're gonna monitor things here and there. But it's not sport. This is not sport. It's not good. This is not something that we should have happen. I thought about never touching it, but it's hard not to get into it because it's going to be in your face. It's going to be in Vegas, and there's a lot of money dangling, right? And we continually see a lot of athletes crossing over. Right now, the Marvin Bracey, right? That to me is just like an embrace of, like, this is a serious drug treat. A guy who's on a 45-month ban or something like that for drug use and also tampering with the investigation there. And he is now signed up. So life is good. He's going to get good money. Reese Prescott, you saw recently, he signed up for it. He's talking about the struggles of being an athlete and needing money and all that stuff. Look, I empathize with people wanting to earn a living and the need to earn a living and all that stuff. But this is not how it works, and we cannot have that, right? I don't want to comment. I got to be very careful of what I say about Prescott or anybody in terms of how, them moving into this. The Jamaican athlete, what's her name, Wallace, I think, or so, is also in it. And there's the swimmers. There's all these different people who are signing on. Some people who claim that they're going to be clean and run clean, and others who are not clean, and they're going to go there, and chances are they're going to take some performance enhancement drugs to participate, right? This is athletes going here are being used. I don't care what they say, no how big a paycheck they get, and they're being used in an interesting way. I can get into that later on at some point. They're being used on a number of fronts. They're being used to legitimize this thing. They're being used to monitor, collect data, to do all sort of stuff in the name of science, which is not straightforward science in the way we think about it. And all of these guys behind this stuff is just on a whole pursuit of longevity and trying to prolong their life. And it's a whole thing that's even beyond just science. It's almost cultish in some interesting ways. So I'm disappointed by it. It's gonna happen. We have to condemn it. I'll never support anything like this because I go back to this. Sport is an interesting thing. It's a community of people. It's a ethical code. It's something that we think about differently. And I don't want to go on a whole historical rant here and where all this comes from, but there's a greater good. There's an understanding. There is a code. And there's an influence behind it. And what are we telling young people, right? And that's why when we have these large conversations, and I remember a couple of years ago when we had that big conversation about whether, recreational drugs that don't clearly offer performance enhancing benefits, whether or not people should be able to do that. And there was a massive story around that with Shakari some years ago, and we have to come to the conclusion that even if it doesn't, and sometimes it can, because we know about different things that people can take for masking and so on, but I won't get into it. Even without that, you have to think about the spirit of the sport, right? And an obligation that we don't put things in our body, right? And we're thinking about this raw competition, leveling of playing fields. Obviously, playing fields are never really quite leveled because people have different resources, but from a standpoint of not pumping things into your body. So, yeah, I'm not having it. And I think they should come out with a statement saying, if you go that route, you're done for. We have to make sure that we establish that. and as a community of people who are part of the sport, and I mean everybody who watches this thing, the Olympics, the you name it, the gymnastics, any sport, we are in partnership with everybody, right? Like sometimes people fail to think about it that way, but it's an ecosystem of people who are their fans, what we hold to be true, right? And this is just not what we think is the right thing. Yeah. Imran is saying Samson's looking good. Is he? But he's gone, right? It's Ford and Moti right now. I mean, I'm not really watching it. Sherrod went back and says, "What annoys me is that that okay, I guess you said they continue to play in our faces by claiming they're not doping." Yeah, from an athletic standpoint, like I'm not sure I believe in that stuff, to be honest with you. There's no way that is true, right? Eh, well, I, let me say it more diplomatically. I don't know, right? Like I think I agree with you on this. You, you can't tell me that, right? Right? You can't, and I expect me to believe this. And perhaps some of them might not be interested in taking anything, but but is that really the case? On the one hand, to be honest with you, Sherwood, and two, show me a company, right? The money thing is a funny thing, right? Like you telling me everybody's there because I need the money, and Fred is there. To be honest with you, I am really disappointed, right? You go back to the Oregon World Championship. Was it Oregon? And two of the medalists are going to be lining up in a doping meet, right? And you think about Reese Prescott too as one of he's elite, or you could even think about him as a world class sprinter at some point. I mean, he's up there on the British all time list as well. What is he, like fifth fastest? He's certainly top 10. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head where he lands right now, but he's there. That it doesn't sit well, right? It certainly doesn't sit well. And I don't want to say people are selling their soul for money, right? That's a kind of, but I'm saying it, even though I don't mean it in that way, because sometimes you can be easily, changed in some ways. I worry about some people going off, and there's a problem with the sport in terms of us not. The sport doesn't make enough money. I think some of these athletes, we know this. That's another story. But I don't think that makes it that okay. I'm gonna just switch over to the biggest payer. Eh, that shouldn't be it, right? Yeah, it shouldn't be it. Yeah. Sherwood says if they're not going to be enhanced, then what then is the point of them being there? It makes no sense unless they're trying to say we're going to beat some enhanced people, right? It is a bit ludicrous, to be honest with you. Yeah. And he Sherwood also said to hear an athlete whose personal best is 11:09 take off breaking the women's world record without doping is ludicrous. Oh no, it is. Like if there's any world records there at any point in time, we have to laugh at that. I don't know. A part of me doesn't even want to watch it, right? But I don't want to watch it. I was on their website recently while I was preparing to make a video around this, and it's disheartening to see this, and it's a lot of joke. Not joke. It's very unserious when you think about what it means for competition, clean sport. Those kind of arrangements that we make in society. And then you have a bunch of guys that probably are going to be pushing different types of chemicals or measurement, and they're going to be tracking people to see what they do. And let's hope that none of this leads into any kind of serious medical complications for athletes, because history is ripe with people doing these things, and they're monitoring. It's one thing to monitor, but they don't really know what can happen, and we don't know what they'll be taking and what they'll be doing. But all of this is the athletes are secondary on this. This is a larger thing here, and it's quite sinister the way I think about it. Yeah. 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 Exactly. That's they're like lab rats. That's a good way of putting it. To be honest with you, it's not what I would think about. All right, let me touch on some more track and field stuff. I'm all over the place now. I don't even know where I am in terms of what else I want to say. Oh, since we're in the field events, let's touch a couple more things here. So I was pleased with one of the performances over the weekend that I liked too was the Zach Bradford performance over the pole vault, 5 meters 90 at that meet in Reno. He's been there before. I think he won there a few years before. It's a place he likes. I think he won on what, count back over Lightfoot. I don't recall seeing the Lightfoot jump, to be honest with you, but I did see his performance, and I like it. 590 is where you want. I continually say in the pole vault, you need a lot more guys going into that 6 meter realm and above, which is a hard space to be. I want to make that clear. It's when you look at the grand history of the sport, not a lot of people can live in those places. But we see the likes of a Carrick stepping up in big ways. We know there are athletes on the circuit that could potentially be closer into that 6 meter place. And Bradford is an interesting athlete. He's been around for a while. He went to the World Championships in Budapest, if my memory serves me correctly. I think he went out in the qualifying round, maybe around 570. But he hasn't really done it outdoors. I remember first seeing him. I think I saw him back in the day. There was he was in that World Under 20 Championships. He medaled in where was the 20 championships in 18? I can't remember now, but so he has talent. There's no question about it. He's been in collegiate circuit. I think he went at Texas Tech and Kansas at some point, if my memory serves me correctly. So he's an athlete there. He qualified for some world championships. He has talent, and if this is not a fluke, if this is something he can build on, then go outdoors and do the same thing. I think his PB might be 591. If he can get there and start moving up to 595 and beyond, maybe he's still young enough to do something in the sport, to be honest with you. So I'd like to see more of him. But I like what I saw yesterday in terms of, or a couple of days ago, from Bradford. The other field event that or if we went into the field, was I like what I saw from Yapacino, right? So Larissa Yapacino, a lot of promise. We all know her mom, Fiona May. Her dad was pole vaulter, come from great athletic stock. A woman over the last how many years I've been kind of touting to say she could be on podiums and just never quite got there. I think disappointed last year in her. She would have been disappointed in her performance last year at the World Championships in Tokyo, failing to qualify for the final. She has an outdoor best of 706, but she starts the season in that World Indoor Tour Challenge there, 693. That's a big jump. You can't complain about that. It was a good series for her, a fairly okay series. I think she had a 6.7 as well and a 6.5. But if she can consistently get back into the right shape, this year is a year to make up for last year. Perhaps try to win the ultimate challenge title or something of the sort. But this is an athlete with a lot of promise, I believe. The women's long jump is next level, obviously. Davis Woodell, Mihambo is still around. But Claire Bryant can step up. I don't want to call all the names right now. What's the woman there who medal? But Yapacino, I expect big from her. Most people do. So to start the season with a 693 suggests that she's healthy. Things went well. Can she get over that 7 meters again? Can she, eventually surpass her outdoor best? Because right now, to be honest with you, you want to be jumping 7 meters consistently and probably closer to 710 if you're going to get on that, anywhere close to that gold or silver medal. And that's a hard place to be, but it's a place that the sport requires you to be. Cool. So those are some kind of interesting stuff there. If you guys want to bring up other things around track and field that you enjoyed this weekend, I'm happy to talk about them. I try to watch most of what I could. Saw some interesting things there. A few 200 meters on a collegiate circuit as well, from a few athletes there. Some mile. I think the youngster there from New Zealand was running well as well. So there's some interesting stuff. I mean, the indoor meets continue this week. I believe there's a meeting in a couple of weeks, in a couple of days from now. But I'm always looking forward to the New Balance meet, the meet in the Milrose Games. There's quite a decent indoor schedule over the last how many years that will get us to Poland for the World Indoor Championships this year, which I believe is in March. What? I think it's the weekend of the 20th or the 21st. I have to check that again. But I like the indoor setup over the last how many years. And I grew to like indoor. Growing up, I never really necessarily like indoor that much. We used to think about indoor mostly as a mechanism for athletes that just were in cold environments, but that's not really true anymore. The indoor setup is really strong. The pay for participating in indoor games are really good. No one can complain about them anymore. They're not that bad. But when I say really good, I want to put it in context in terms of for track and field in general. I'm not talking about other sports, and we know the limitations when it comes to paying athletes in track and field. And the only way that can ever improve is to get other people watching the sport, right? You have to have a lot of eyes on the sport. You have to have tons of fans watching. If you don't do that, then there's absolutely no way you can get athletes to the kind of payment that really they're deserving of. And I agree they deserve a lot of money, but you don't get money if the TV revenue isn't big or if people aren't coming into the gates. But there's a lot of money on tap for indoor stuff. If you're on the Gold Tour for the World Indoor Championships, the prize money is decent, right? And going to the World Indoor Championships, I don't think I saw the posting for how much money is on tap for this year. But if my memory serves me correctly from the last couple of indoor meetings, you're getting what, $40,000 to win something or 70,000. So it's not terrible, right? It's not quite the same as the outdoor, but money is there. And I think the indoor meets are nice. They're like a weekend type of tournament, and you do that, you get good money, right? So you can't complain about it. So I think even you notice that even increasingly, even athletes that come from traditional hot weather climates are really participating in indoor championships, and they should, because they should take it seriously, because you can make some money, and it can set you up for an interesting season moving forward. Yeah, cool. So that's my take on the track and field stuff for this weekend. I'm happy to go back into it. I may have missed a few things that I had written down earlier, but it is what it is. I'll transition and talk about some other sports, and we can go back. Right now, I'm just checking the cricket is 132 for 17.4. Yeah, the West Indies are in shambolic form here, to be honest with you. But I'm not sure I anticipated anything better, right? Yeah. All right. So I think just from my memory, it is. I think you get $40,000 if you win from the last World Championships that was held earlier this year, and also I think it's like 40, 20, and 10 for indoor championships. So when you have a situation like that, you can't really complain, right? Like it's not bad work for track and field, given the the limitations of where we are in the sport, right? Yeah. Cool. I appreciate everybody coming on. So a lot of stuff been happening. I mean, I'll transition to some more sport. If you don't like those type of sports, I understand, but that's how it works. Big sport tonight. Let me start off with tonight. I don't know if you guys are kind of college fans, but massive championship this evening in Miami in Hard Rock. There's going to be the final of the college football CFB playoffs there. Indiana, the Hoosiers are on what I have to imagine is something that we probably never hear the end of it. To be honest with you, in a couple of days from now, if they go on to win, if they win this tonight, it's gonna be 16-0. No one has really done that in the modern era. We haven't seen it in a while. Well, look at objectivity coming through, man. Happy New Year to you. How you been? Yeah. If you're just coming through, you probably missed a lot of track and field stuff that I've talked about, but I'm sure you'll catch up. Yeah, but the Hoosiers tonight are on course for something unprecedented. Obviously, the Miami will have a lot to say there as well. They too were interesting this season, and I didn't think Miami would be this far, to be honest with you, in college football. But earlier this season when it started, my wife was saying to me she liked how Miami looked because she was watching them against Notre Dame, and she was like, "That team is really good." It went down to the wire. The Miami team won, and the Miami team has been doing some interesting stuff. Got rid of Ohio State to even to get to Ohio State, they had to win stuff, and that was a good game they did against Ole Miss. But now they're in a championship game. I don't know if they can pull it off. It's pretty much a home game for them at Hard Rock. But I suspect the Hoosiers are going to have a lot more people in the stands anyway. The tickets were going for over $3,000, and people are snapping that up. And I don't know if I can actually, if we'll hear the end of it if Indiana wins tonight. But most analysts are saying that they should win. Look, I'm going to be honest. I don't like Indiana. I can't like them because of my allegiance to Purdue, but it's a different type of situation. But objectively, they should win. They're the team of destiny, to be honest with you. Fernando Mendoza as a quarterback has been amazing. He's so efficient on third down. The thing about Indiana is that they don't make mistakes. The fewest penalties in all of college sports in terms of how they play. Turnover differentials are ridiculous for them too. They're really physical. The Miami team is really physical as well. But Signetti he turned around Indiana. It's one of the worst programs in all of Power 4 conferences, and he turned this around. And to be honest with you, it's hard to go against them tonight. I don't know. This rise under Signetti, they've only lost 2 games under him or something like that. And they can play the hard way. They can play the easy way. They're physical at Big Ten championships earlier this year, showed how physical they are against what I thought was a really good Ohio State team that could potentially win it all, and just never worked out. And then, they ran up against Alabama and smacked them. And Oregon came to town, and it was a pick 6 in like 11 seconds of the game, and it was over, right? So they can do it in many different ways. We'll see. Carson Beck is on a redemption thing for Miami. I think he can be he's a top quality quarterback. He's been vital to the whole Miami thing all postseason as well, especially just to beat that Ole Miss team. But it's hard for me to think that anybody can beat these Hoosiers tonight. And most of the betting markets are also suggesting that. I never always think about the betting markets here, but just from an eye test, and I'm not a great NFL, college sports or NFL guy in terms of I don't trust my analysis there the way I trust it for, say, track and field. But hey, I think it's gonna be a fantastic game tonight. I'm telling you, if you come anywhere close to the state of Indiana, you just can't avoid these Hoosiers. So it's crazy. Objective is say missed a lot. Yeah, I talked a little bit about Kishane, Tia Clayton a little bit. Manoa Lyles, I think I touched on. Yapachina, Yaroslava Mahuchikh. And also Zach Bradford, I thought was good on the pole vault there. Any other things you guys want to pick up? We'll see. Objective say looking forward to Mendoza's performance. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be good tonight. I think he's an interesting kid. He's from Miami. Is he from Miami? I can't recall, but he's been around. I mean, he was at Cal, and then he came to IU this year. He's been clutch. I mean, some of the performances he's done in terms of on third down, the kind of throws, all the analysts are saying, or the people who are saying that a guy like a Mendoza is ready for, say, the NFL. He looks that way. He looks comfortable. They got to win it tonight. If they win it tonight, it's going to be a storied turnaround. It would be one for the ages. I don't think we've seen the like of a team like this in such a long time. When you think about even in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, what was it, a week ago or so? In a little bit over a week ago, when they played Oregon, it was like a sea of red in there, right? Like you thought they were playing, in Hoosier Stadium, right? It's just like it's crazy. So, yeah, it's going to be a big game tonight. The NFL is also cracking up into some interesting ways. I don't know if you guys have been watching that. I mean, the big story this morning so far is the end of an era for Sean McDermott there at Buffalo. He's been fired after 9 seasons, which is interesting. I mean, because he transformed Buffalo, to be honest with you, from a team that didn't really see the playoffs in a long time to just being there all the time, kind of what would you say, kind of the best way to think about it, like almost like a perennial powerhouse, if that's the right word to label it. And I thought that he was doing a good job there, but that loss to the Denver Broncos, what was it? When was it? Saturday, 33-30 there. I don't know. He's gone. He's out this morning. He had a really good how many years since he came back there. So a bit of a surprise, but you just never know what these NFL owners and the management team do, because they had not been in postseason for a long time. What was it, like 17 years that Buffalo didn't see that? And I think the Bills are going through thinking about a new stadium, all that stuff. So the shift coaches here, that's interesting. Not quite sure what to make of that, but that's the big thing. But yesterday was some good games as well. Massive performance by Seattle Seahawks there. I think that was the day before the Saturday. I remember watching that, annihilating the 49ers there. Broncos obviously winning, but they have no quarterback right now because he's hurt. So I don't know what will happen there for them. New England, they're back. I can't even imagine that stuff. They're back as well, getting rid of the Houston Texans. And last night, the Chicago Bears, on a very cold night, really lost at hometown. Matt Stafford there from LA, there the Rams, overtime win, victory. And I didn't see it coming, to be honest with you. I thought the Bears would have held off. I remember talking to my brother earlier this year, and he's like, the Bears could win it all. And I was like, what? And I was in Chicago a couple of weeks ago when they were playing, before the New Year. Yeah, they were playing, I think, Green Bay, and I just couldn't get out of the loop. It was just like the traffic was ridiculous. And you think about Chicago, and I was like, yeah, they're going to be good this season, and they look good. And Caleb Williams, they're even, that crazy throw just to send the game into overtime, and then he got intercepted again, and I'm like, they could walk it down, win it, and he gives it away, and the LA Rams take it. So it's going to be an interesting kind of championship, right? We'll see in these next week, right? So you have New England fighting it out with the Denver Broncos. Right now, you have to say the Patriots will get back to the Super Bowl, because I don't think a backup quarterback for the Denver Broncos can actually do anything, to be honest with you. I think I think the Patriots they have one foot into the NFL title. It's a bit, you never want to say that, but it looks that way. And then the Rams against the Seahawks. I don't know if I want to bet against Seattle. The way Seattle ran through the 49ers the other night, it's just it's big performance there, physical. So, the NFL might be interesting. We'll see. Right now, it's in the final over of the cricket here. Weston is 140 for 9. It's Shamar Josephs and Jaden Seal. They can't make that target. Yeah, so the Weston ends in an embarrassing fashion. So yeah, that was my take on my roundup on the NFL. I know some of you might not be on that kind of thing, but that's how I saw it. I could potentially talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about football as well. But let's talk first, before I do, the Premier League, Manchester United. Some of you know I'm a Manchester United fan too. Yeah, how many people watched the AFCON thing yesterday? I mean, the AFCON final was interesting. It gave us some things that I just never thought that you would see in football. I'm still a bit concerned about how all of this panned out. So it was Senegal, Morocco, big performance there. Senegal winning, but final score 1-0. It was a great goal from Pape Gueye there from Villarreal. I think he plays for. Massive strike there in the 94th minute to basically win it for Senegal. But the game was a lot of controversy, lots of controversy there. Second title, obviously, for Senegal. They haven't won they won recently, but it wasn't what you wanted to see from what many people are claiming to be a great African Cup of Nations this year. Admittedly, I didn't watch a lot of the games this time. I watched a couple of highlights. I saw most of things here and there, but I just wasn't into AFCON this year for a number of different reasons. But the game is marred, and I think the title is marred by a massive controversy on the walk-off. So you're telling me that these guys pick up the coach brought, the Senegalese player walk-off because there was a disallowed goal, then didn't work out for them. I don't think VAR could intervene because of the whistle came before, if you guys saw the whole thing. And then immediately, not too long after, not after that, a penalty was awarded to Morocco. Those guys were fuming, the Senegalese, the coach, they walked off, and there was a big 20-minute delay. So I think you walk off the pitch on a major game or any type of game, you're literally forfeiting. It should have been over. I don't think you do that. That's not how you respond to adversity. It's unsportsmanlike. I think it's bad. It's not good practice. And you don't want to do that. And I guess Sadio Mane intervened. He's been the one getting much of the praise for convincing the players to come back on. But the Senegalese coach ordered his players to walk off the pitch, and that really delayed the game for 20 minutes. They eventually come back on. The penalty was still awarded. The guy tried a Panenka. It didn't work. It went straight into the hands of Mendy. But Sherwood is saying AFCON was a mess. It was a mess. You just don't do that kind of thing, And I get it, right? You're upset that the goal didn't go your way. If you're Senegalese, I have a lot of Senegalese friends who are happy today they eventually won, but you don't walk off the pitch. I think you should be punished for that. In fact, you should just lose for doing that stuff. You throw the game in disrepute when you do that type of thing. Eventually, cooler heads obviously prevailed. It came back on. Diaz couldn't score. I don't know why he tried a Panenka. Not quite sure what was in his head. But regardless, they're blaming that he was ice cold for a while. And unfortunately, they didn't win the match. But whatever happened, it was marred. Even the press conference afterwards, when the Senegalese coach came in, the entire Moroccan journalist crew just walked out of as well. It's unbecoming behavior. Didn't really like it, to be honest with you. But it ended up Senegal winning a title. By many people estimation, it was surprise title. The Moroccans were favored, but we'll see. It will come back in the World Cup. I'm not sure they'll end up facing each other, but we'll see what happens there. All right, so that's my African football take there on AFCON. Premier League was interesting this weekend. A lot of major interesting implication. I think if you're an Arsenal fan, you would be happy. I was telling my wife is an Arsenal fan, and I'm certainly not. I'm a United guy. And I said to her, we gave you an opportunity, right? We gave you a chance to go 9 points ahead, by dismantling Manchester City in the Manchester derby. And I'll get to that in a second. And Arsenal couldn't capitalize on that, but they would have ended the weekend happy. I texted my buddy Rolf, who's also an Arsenal fan, that despite them not taking the advantage of a gift from Manchester United, Aston Villa didn't win against Everton yesterday, so the results work out in Arsenal's favor. In a way, you have to say that the title race should be over, to be honest with you. The Arsenal team here, objectively, is really strong. They have tons of players for every position. But, I still think they're set piece merchants. That's my little bit of a dig against Arsenal. But it was an interesting weekend of performances. Nothing against Nottingham Forest. They held Arsenal really well. I think one of the biggest surprises of the weekend would have been Villa getting stunned there by Everton. I didn't see that coming. Liverpool in the same situation there. Big frustration at Anfield. Burnley equalizing and 1-1 there. Spurs in massive trouble. Couldn't hold on in that London derby there. 92nd winner for West Ham from Callum Wilson. So 2-1. I think there's not much longer there for all the rumblings right now suggesting that Tottenham will fire Frank, I think. But he might be held on for the European game, but he's potential. Not the European game. He might be held on for the next game, but he might be gone. Chelsea there, 2-0 from Brentford. I didn't get to see that game because I was watching the Liverpool game, but I saw the highlights, so it's hard to make sense of that. But yeah. But the match of the week, well, before we get to Sherwood says he doesn't think it's over. It's not potentially over, but I don't think Villa is going to win the title. I think the only other team that could make a run here would be City. In all honesty, I don't know what to make of City, to be honest with you. But they got Semenyo just recently. Gay seems to be going there. So you never count out a Pep Guardiola team, right? I mean, he's one of the best, but and City has the kind of finances to strengthen, and they're definitely doing some strengthening here in the January market. But it's really tough, it's tough, and I'm not unless Arsenal really blows it. United goes to Arsenal next. We'll talk about that too. Maybe if they were to win there, I'm not optimistic United can win there, but from the performance I saw in the Manchester derby there, you never know. But I'll get to that. Sherwood is saying you're a Liverpool fan, and he's saying we're trash right now. It's okay to say. Yeah, the Liverpool situation is, you give me permission. I always try to be I don't want to jump into it. There's a lot of questions around what's happening at Liverpool. I don't myself understand it, in the sense that you spent 400 million, you've won a title on the slot the first year. It's a big thing, you were in the mix of the Champions League a little bit until you faltered. I can't explain it. Maybe you can. Vert seems to be doing a little bit better, but you spent a lot of money. It's a good team, right? I mean, some people say you needed to strengthen the back line. I don't know, but it's a lot of money you spent. And you would think that you would be pushing on. And the money was spent in a good way, right? You won stuff, but a team like Liverpool is always looking to Europe and trying to win everything as well. So you would indicate when the players you brought in suggested that you were going to kick on the season. And at the start of the season, no one would bet against Liverpool not being there to win the title. And far off from it, it doesn't look like anything is going to work out. And to be honest with you, I'm wondering if Arne Slot is a dead man walking. I think he might go by the end of the season, especially when you think about managerial candidates that are available. I guess Xavi Alonso is gone now from Real Madrid. He potentially could slot into a job like that in terms of a high-profile standing. He's a club legend. I don't know if you'll call Alonso a club legend at Liverpool. maybe he won. Yeah, yeah. I would say I could think so. Perhaps not in the way, obviously, of Dalglish or Rush or Gerard, but he was there for some trophies as well. But he played there for a long time as well. So I would suggest that he wouldn't have a problem going there. So it's interesting. Sherwood is saying we made too many changes in one season. The money's not an issue because we went for many years without spending a lot. Yeah, probably you spent more money than you should. I don't know. I don't know what Slot did last year that he's not doing this year, right? I mean, you've lost, like, clearly Trent is gone, but also maybe the impact of the club suffered a massive loss too with uh what's his name, Jota, who perished in a car crash, he and his brother. So perhaps some of that could potentially be a part of the thing here, but they should be doing better. I think they should be doing better, right? I just saw breaking news there about Valentina died. But anyway, so back to, I don't know what to say about Liverpool. I think a lot of people would kill for the squad you have. So perhaps maybe it's a managerial tweak that might happen, but maybe the players aren't believing in Slot and his philosophy, and that's not something that you always want to see, but it's one of those things. But I want to go back to Manchester United, if you will allow me, and I'll probably end on. And I will say, the Carrick effect, right? Michael Carrick took over from Darren Fletcher, who did a 2-match stint after the firing of Ruben Amorim, and Carrick is at the wheel. I think the Manchester Evening News had from chaos to Carrick before the game. And this is the second time in an interim stint. He took over during that period there. And look, it's a derby game. People get up for a derby game, but the way in which Manchester United play on Saturday, and I'm really happy I woke up for it. I was going to watch it anyway, but I wasn't optimistic because you're facing a City team that is in fairly decent nick, and a team that is much stronger when you think about man for man. And Michael Carrick, 3 days there, and his team, and the heat he's taken to, because he's been taking some heat from the United Old Boys Club led by Roy Keane and others, and criticized for the staff that includes the likes of, say, Johnny Evans and the English guy that what's his name, Steve Rounds or something like that. He was the second in charge to Gareth Southgate, but they did fantastically well, right? It was a Manchester United performance that I liked. It was a performance that harkened back to the good old days. It's a performance that you hope to see a lot. And it had something to do with systems, but not a lot about systems either, right? There are different points. It was interesting. At a point, it looked like a 4-4-2. Sometimes it looked like a 4-2. Like it was like a 4-2-4 at one point. There's different shiftings that was happening in the game, of 4-2-3-1, if you want to think about it as well. But it was the intensity of the game. It was the way they played with passion, and they were running hard, and I wasn't sure they could sustain that hard running the whole time, and everything worked out well. I mean, they scored 5 times, three of them offside. That's part of the game, but it was a performance that even at halftime I was pleased with. I was texting a bunch of people, and I was saying to myself, yeah, they haven't scored, and perhaps City might score one, and you're going to feel defeated because you didn't take your chances. But it was more of the performance than even the result. Clearly, the result in football is always the most important thing. You want to see people getting goals, to be honest with you, and it didn't happen, and winning and taking the 3 points. But Manchester United performed extremely creditably well, and that performance is something that anybody should be happy with, to be honest with you. And if you're a Manchester United fan, everybody's waxing lyrical over the last few days. You hear it from the likes of the old boys. It's like a Fergie performance. Now, Does it mean that everything is solved? Absolutely not. A big test is coming right now in the form of Arsenal, who are looking to, I would say, embarrass Manchester United. They're gonna try to do it. They want the 3 points. They are on top of the league. They need the 3 points, if you ask me. However, I think playing City, then now playing Manchester United, playing City, then now going to Arsenal, and I get to your comment in a second there, Sherwood, is almost like the right setup, right? It's another team that will try to possess the ball a lot. It's a more physical. I don't know if it's a more physical team, but it's a resilient team that you're gonna face in Arsenal. To be honest with you, those boys are tough. As I'm saying, they're set piece merchants. They score a lot of goals off the off set play. So you have to do something about that, right? You have to think about how you manage that. But I think a similar setup against Arsenal might work. Not quite sure what Carrick is thinking there, but I think he could work. But I like what I saw. And going back to the game itself, the guy made a big decisions before the start of the game. Didn't play Sesko, left out Cunha. He brought back in Kobe Menu, who's starting for the first time. He looked well, started with Casemiro there, pushing, making sure Bruno Fernandes running in the number 10. Because that's where you want Fernandes. You don't want Fernandes in the back of the, you don't want to put him in positions to when he makes some passes that may not go off, you're immediately under threat. So credit to him there, and credit to the players too. Because when Cunha came on, I thought he was fantastic. Immediately, he was blocking a shot. Then you saw how hard he was working, and you know, getting on, getting in there, putting in that cross for Dorgu to score. That's what you like to see. So I hope that performance continues. I hope they, go to the Emirates and get something out of it. I'll take a draw from now, but anything better than that, it was good. I don't think you go there expecting to win, actually, objectively, but I'll take a draw right away. But if they can put in a performance similar to what we saw against City, then it augurs well for what he can do to transform this team for the rest of the season. I don't know if he'll get the job. It's one of those things where it's hard to say. I think he just has to do what he has to do, and what he needs to do is to maximize the best out of these players, to remind them what it means to play for this great club, and maybe things will happen. I think the biggest challenge at Manchester United is still the top of the club, the running of the club by the Glazers, now by Ineos, who has football operations, and they need to figure that out. Is Carrick the right man? It's too early for that. Sherwood is saying, love Roy, but he's just mad Ole wasn't put back in. Fair play to United. Few had them getting anything from that match. Yeah, I think so. I think there's a thing of, you got to listen to Roy Keane in different, you got to kind of extract what he's saying from time to time. Honestly, Keane, club legend, love the guy in terms of what he did for Manchester United. I remember that night in Turin, he got the yellow card. He knew he wasn't going to play. Put in a captain's performance, as to quote the great what's his name, the commentator there. His name is slipping me right now. I can see his face, but I think you remember him saying Roy Keane with a captain's performance. But Keane is one of those guys that gave it all. He likes to see players leave it on the line. I think that's part of the thing. And he was a great player. He could pass the ball. He knew how to push it forward. He could get into the box. But he's very critical. He's bitter. I think he's bitter mostly the way he left the team, right? He was pushed out. He went on MUTV and he complained about a performance, and Fergie got rid of him. So he and Fergie never sees eye to eye. He loves Ole, right? They're good buddies. I think you're right on this. He would have preferred Ole to get the job. And, there's also a little bit of heat with him and Carrick as well from years before, mainly on a social media rant with his wife. So there's some kind of thing there. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. No one in their right mind thought that United would pull off anything. I would have taken a draw. I would take in something from not getting embarrassed. And it's a derby game where you say you can win one in a derby game. But the way in which the players went out there and performed, the manner of the victory, City had no chance there. Martinez had Harlan in his back pocket. It was an intensity. Pep was sitting down. He was shaking a little bit. He got out Fox there. And that doesn't normally happen, right? But it's one match, one performance. You got to go to the Emirates and replicate this. And then you take it from there. And if he can get out, I think his primary thing for the rest of the season, Carrick, that is to make sure the players play well enough and get into the Champions League spot, because that is up for grabs. It's certainly up for grabs. Honestly, I think the top three could remain the same. I think Arsenal will win it. City will be there. Villa. But when you look at the points that separate those, from 5 onwards going down, and even I think it's anybody's game. And if you get a team that can push forward and run on a series of wins, good performances, you never know, right? So you're close to Champions League, or you're close to being 8th, 7th, or 9th, right? It's that kind of interesting Premier League, and a Liverpool team that's not firing too. You must be able to take that into perspective and try to do something. So if Carrick has to spend the rest of the time trying to get the team into the Champions League, and if he were to get the team playing the right way, playing hard, playing similar to what we saw on Saturday, then he's gonna probably be in the job, right? He's gonna be in the mix for it. It's hard to me to think that if he were to get them to finish 3rd or 4th and playing good football, Champions League, it's hard to look beyond that, right? Sherwood says, this is the part of me that would love to see Roy and Gary in charge, only to see them fail. Well, I know you're saying that because you're a Liverpool fan. They're so harsh on managers. They are the best armchair managers in the business. Yeah, I don't think Gary Neville will ever get back into management. That stint at in Spain, suggested otherwise. They're off there making a lot of money, right? They're there to do what they're doing, right? A lot of money on the overlap on Sky Sports and the punditry stuff. That's what they're doing. Roy Keane, he's a curmudgeon type of guy. People like that stuff. It works. It's and you're a Liverpool fan. I can't remember what particular vintage you are, but in the sense that if you remember similar stuff, the Liverpool guys would have said a lot of stuff in the late 90s and 2000s as well on TV. So I think it's now the United guys are getting it, because United aren't doing well, right? You go back to Hansen and all of those guys who would be complaining in the media, and what's his name? Graham Souness, all those guys. So I think it's just the United time now, because when you have the players that won a lot and won everything and dominated, and when the team isn't doing well, they talk a lot, right? And now Scholes is doing it, and Nicky Butt, and all of these guys are getting the airtime, and I think that's one of those things. They'll talk. I think if you're inside of the club, you can't listen to that stuff. You shouldn't be even thinking about it. And the players, they have a lot to prove, because they have not been good enough, I think. But there are good players there that should be able to find their way into a European position. 5th should get you a Champions League, so we'll see. Anyway, I've been on for a little bit of an hour, and so it's been my pleasure as usual. We've touched on a number of things today on this MLK Day. I hope you guys are having a great day. I'll be back soon. And as usual, we'll try to get some other things coming on the channel. I'm hoping to do a lot more lives and get your thoughts on it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as usual. I really appreciate your support. There will be a lot of track and field stuff this week as well, and I'll be doing, and I'll be doing some watch-alongs. Hopefully, looking forward to New Balance. Looking forward to Milrose and other stuff as well. I'll check this comment out before I get out. Yeah, Sherwood is saying they're critical of everyone except Ollie. That's true. I think Ollie was good enough. I don't think Ollie was bad. I think Ollie was on a good project until the whole Cristiano Ronaldo thing came in. But they will be, right? Because it's like their buddy, right? They played with him. They won. Solskjaer won the title, the Champions League on the last kick there. There's that, right? They can't separate that, and it's easy to see right now, especially when the team isn't winning and they can blame stuff, you know. Yeah, and I think they defend him to the hill, right? I think Roy, as you say, would have been happy if Solskjaer got the job over Carrick, or if Solskjaer got the job and Carrick was like his assistant. For whatever reason, I don't know what happened there. My biggest issue is that I'm not sure I trust what's happening above. I don't trust Barada right now. I certainly don't trust Jason as well. I think they're messing about, and Ineos has not delivered the kind of leadership that is necessary at a big club like Manchester United. Let's hope they fix that. I'm sure you're reveling in it and you're probably happy. You'd be much more happy if Liverpool was doing well, but we shall see. All right, guys, I'm going to call it for today. I will be back soon. Hopefully, I enjoyed everybody. And if you're coming back on a watch along, please, enjoy the video as best as you can. We touched on a number of sports today. So that's what I like to do on the rundown. And we'll do some track and field specific stuff and some other things specific as well. Thanks again. I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye.